What up, what up, what up, world? Welcome back. We're excited to be here. Um, Here with the Get Right Fantasy Network. The OGs are in the building. And
What up? What up, everybody?
Frank.
What's up, people? Welcome back.
All right. And I'm going to be walking us through it. Today, we're going to cover a lot of topics. Still talking to you first timers. You just joined fantasy football. You're on the Get Right Fantasy Network. You came to the right place. It seems like you want to win. Like, subscribe, share. Don't do any of it. We really don't care.
Help us out.
Yeah, ignore us. Don't cut it out.
Either way.
But yeah, so today we're going to be covering league size, league types, league scorings, roster positions, a lot more stuff you need to know when hopping into a fantasy league. We're trying to give you that competitive advantage. Hit the intro.
Nice intro.
Thanks. Hey, I've been working on it. Frank,
Hey, that was good.
Anthony, hey, help us out. Walk us through. I remember in our last video for the entry, we covered a lot of topics, draft, going through the season, all that kind of stuff. What else should we be looking for? We're getting into our first draft. Where are you going at?
Yeah. So when it first comes into it, basically, obviously, you're going to need to know how many players you're playing with. Before you can even get into your draft research, you obviously have to know how many other players are in the league. Any league will consist of anywhere from 8 to 16 players. I think 10 players are pretty much most common. And, each player is usually called a manager or an owner, or they're just called, a team. So those are just the individual owners, the individual players that are going to be managing a team.
I think once you get into the higher numbers there, you go to 12, 14, 16 team leagues, the difficulty level obviously gets up there. So for beginners, you should stick to the 8 to 10 person teams. That'll get you, get your feet wet, basically.
Yeah, and it's mainly like that because I wouldn't say necessarily even more difficult, but the reason why it's more difficult, I would say, is because you just have to know about more players. It's more statistics that you have to get into, more, players that you just have to have a knowledge of, instead of the top 20 running backs, you're going to have to know who are the top 24 running backs, and then some, and vice versa for each position from there on.
Sure. Yeah, you're picking up second, third string players right then. Again, if you guys know me, you know I'm hopping in the leagues where I'm going to win the money. So I don't care if it's 10. I don't care if it's 12. I want to know who my competition is. And if I got a good chance, I feel like I could beat you, I'm hopping in the league. We're going for gold. So on top of that, I know there's a tons of different league types. Frank, if you kind of break that down for us.
Well, the most common league type is a year-long league or redraft league, as they call them. Basically, you pick a new team every year and usually have the same players available, same team members for that league. And then you have a keeper league, which is the next most common, where you're actually keeping 1 or 2 players on your bench for the next year, depending on the rules that are there available. Then you go into Dynasty and best ball leagues that are just, Dynasty leagues for those players that just want to have a team that lasts throughout the years, and you just actually drafting rookies only. A best ball league is a new thing where you just kind of just draft in the league and let it sit there for the rest of the year. And then you go into daily fantasy, and that's the new money thing going on. You actually, bet those on, gambling sites nowadays, and set up a daily fantasy, a roster for that week and see what happens.
It's kind of like fantasy football roulette, if you will.
For sure.
So for all you daily fantasy football hosts, hit us up for a sponsor. We'll be here. We're listening. So more importantly, right? So you have your teams, players, managers, as Anthony kind of broke it down. Every week you're playing each other to win. So what you're trying to get is kind of an easy concept. You're trying to get points. Can you guys kind of break down in every different league, and we touched this a little bit in the first video, there's different type of scoring, so we want to get into it a little more.
Absolutely. Yeah, and this is, where it all really breaks down. There's three main types of scoring as far as the leagues go. It's going to be standard scoring. Then there's going to be half point PPR and full point PPR. PPR stands for point per reception. So that means anytime a receiver, running back, tight end, or even a quarterback catches a pass, they're going to get an additional half or full point for that reception. Typically, the rest of the scoring stays the same, and that typical scoring is 1 point for every 10 yards gained for running backs and receivers and tight ends. And for quarterbacks, it's a little different. They score 1 point for every 25 passing yards. As well as touchdowns, they're 6 points, just like the real game. And for quarterbacks, depending on your scoring format in your league, it'll either be 4 points or 6 points for a passing touchdown. So you're definitely going to want to pay attention to that, because in 6 point per passing touchdown leagues, those quarterbacks, are a little more valuable because they're scoring some extra points there.
Yeah, so good point just to know it. Know what you're getting into, know what to expect, get that competitive edge on everybody else. Your sleeves are rolled up, theirs aren't. You're ready to win it. The other thing, too, is kind of understanding your roster, right?
Typically, those positions for any typical roster is going to consist of a quarterback. You're going to have 2 running backs, most likely anywhere from 2 to 3 receivers. If you don't have that third receiver, it's probably going to be a flex position. And what a flex player is in that roster spot, you can insert either a running back, a receiver, or a tight end. And then they even have leagues where that spot is considered a super flex. And that basically means you can put a quarterback, a running back, a receiver, or a tight end in that position. Most people obviously opt for a quarterback because they do score the most points. And typically when it's a super flex league, those are also considered a 2 QB league. And the reason why it's important to kind of understand this terminology, and understand what type of league you're in, is because a lot of the times that's how the players are going to be ranked and valued. So, depending on what scoring format will determine what type of value that player has based on the type of performances that they average throughout the year.
So sound smart. Somebody wants you to join the league. You're like, hey, is this PPR? Are we talking standard scoring? What's going on here? Is this super flex? Hey, you're going to sound like a genius.
Yeah, and you don't want to forget your bench spots. You do end up 6, maybe even 8 bench spots, depending on the league that you're in. You also have IR spots, injured reserve. So if somebody gets injured, you could put him in that spot and then pick up another player without having to drop your guy. There's also leagues that play independent defensive players, so IDPs. So there's a lot of spots available that are even that you're going to draft on and keep track of. But a lot of people don't even realize they have an IR spots. I was 8 years old when this happened in COVID. So, keep an eye out what's available to you.
So I got really excited when you guys were talking because I thought about it. We're getting into it, and it just means we're getting that much closer. Some of my favorite parts, which is we're going to be doing mock drafts here. Stay tuned. We kind of just wanted to break down the terminology, what to expect. Frank, Anthony, so happy to have you guys break that down. Pay attention, guys. We're going to be dropping more videos. Draft will be coming soon. If we haven't said it before, like, subscribe, keep following. We're going to get you to the promised land. You can roll your sleeves down. Thanks for tuning in. Anthony, Frank, thanks again for joining.
Pleasure.
Thanks, man.